What is up, everybody? This is Adam. Welcome back to Fouled Out. Matt is going to be joining me in just a moment to break down the divisional round of the NFL playoffs. We are down to our final eight. Matt and I are going to tell you everything you need to know about divisional weekend, go through each game, and then pick a winner for you at the end. Started off 4-2 in our playoff predictions last week, so we're going to look to do a little bit better this week, hopefully going 4-0. But before we get started, just a reminder, you can reach out to us, fouledoutsports@gmail.com. Really appreciate you guys listening, and we always love to hear from you. Let us know who you're picking for divisional weekend. I got a pool going with my parents all of a sudden where everybody is 4-2. Matt and I are competing on this podcast, and we'd love to hear your picks as well. So email those into us, fouledoutsports@gmail.com. But for now, let's grab Matt and let's talk divisional weekend. Let's go. All right, Matt is here, fresh off of wild card weekend of the NFL playoffs. Matt, how you doing, buddy?
Good. How about you?
I am pissed off. I am so mad that we picked the Chargers on this podcast last week this is my new Ravens ran the ball 6 times for this year. It's the
Yeah.
fact that we picked the Chargers and they went out and charged from play one last week.
Yeah.
Matt, I don't want to hear Justin Herbert's name in a top 10 quarterbacks conversation until he wins a playoff
I
game.
don't want to hear his name,
Yeah.
period.
4 interceptions and oh man. The Herbert thing has always been amazing to me because he's such a physically talented guy and he's a dude that all the smart football nerds are if you don't have him in your top 5, we talked about this last week, they shit on you. They're like, wow, you obviously don't know ball if this guy's in your top 5. And he's played 2 playoff games now. He's 0-2, blew a 27-point lead to the Jags and Trevor Lawrence, and then just absolute shit show against the Texans on Sunday. Or on Saturday. But I don't want to hear it. If we're ranking quarterbacks for the next however many years until Justin Herbert actually wins a playoff game, I don't want to hear that he's a top 10 quarterback in the NFL. Because I vehemently disagree after watching what I watched. This was separate the men from the boys weekend. Herbert sucked. Darnold imploded, which thank God we were on the right side of that one because what a miserable game for anybody that believed in the Vikings.
Mm-hmm. Ironically, Stroud also was pretty bad, but he had a flame-throwing defense to bail him out.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, we went 4-2 in our picks last week, which is not horrible.
It's not, but the fact that we called out both games as the ones that we would miss stings pretty hard.
I said this to my mom the other day because we were talking about the picks. I was like, I spent the entire podcast last week explaining why I would be wrong for picking the Chargers. I was like, what a stupid thing for me to do, to spend an hour-long podcast picking the Chargers and then explaining all the reasons I'm wrong when I could have just picked the Texans and been right. I feel like I don't even listen to myself sometimes where I'm like, I picked the Chargers, but I know they're going to lose. It's like, okay, if you know they're going to lose, just pick the correct team then. But yeah, we did this last year where we picked all 6 games and we're like, all right, which one of these teams screws us? And our answer was the Packers and Cowboys because we had picked the Cowboys and we were like, the Packers are going to win. And then the Packers won. And then this year I said the Chargers, you said the Bucks and Commanders because we picked the Bucks and that was the hardest game to pick. And to be fair, that really could have gone either way. There are a couple plays down the stretch for the Bucks.
It could have, but I remember sitting there thinking, Todd Bowles is gonna fuck this up somehow. He's gonna fuck this up. And sure enough, when they kicked that field goal to tie it, everyone knew that game was over already. Everyone knew that they lost that at the moment that decision was made.
It's very weird to watch a football game in 2024 and be like, Dan Quinn is the better coach. Like I fully trust Dan Quinn to get this correct over the other coach. Like
Yeah.
your coach is Dan Quinn and you have a decided coaching advantage. It's in 2024. It's an amazing thing. Uh, but yeah, that's what I was saying is like, so every year on this podcast, we pick the 6 games and we're like, which team is going to screw us? We pick the one that's going to screw us and then they screw us. So next year, we're going to pick all 6 games. And then at the end, we're going to say, who's most likely to screw us? And whatever team we pick, we're switching the goddamn pick and we're going to go 6-0. What a stupid thing to do to pick the
Yeah.
goddamn Chargers.
Yeah.
I'm so mad.
That wasn't even the one that I convinced you on either.
No, were just in
I
on that one, and
I saved you from dropping to 500.
yes, which is a good call. The
Yeah.
Philly was a good call because that was one of those games where the Packers kick returner fumbles the opening kickoff. And I was like, this is it. That's it. I just turned the game off. I was like, that's over. See ya. No, I had it on, and it was one of the more boring and awful game. Like this past weekend
Yeah.
was not a good weekend of football. It was not. Like the
No.
Texans slaughtered the Chargers, like you said. Like the Texans defense, like really showed up. We did talk last week about the Texans defense being pretty good for
Yeah.
large portions of the season. They were number 1 in DVOA,
hmm
and they kind of had that nobody believes in us edge last week. They really showed up, but
Yeah.
so we start not great. The Ravens and Steelers was okay for a while, but it was just one of those games where you kind of knew the Ravens had it in hand the entire
Yeah.
time, especially because they actually decided to run the goddamn football and they ran it for
Who
300
knew?
yards. Yeah, it's like the first drive they're calling design runs for Lamar and I'm like they're going to win by double digits. That sucked. The Buffalo beat the brakes off of the Broncos. Which good for us for not spending that much time on that game last week because that might have been the worst one of the weekend.
Yeah.
The Philly and Green Bay game. We're going to talk about Philly here in a little bit, but I just feel like that's who they are now is like all their games are just going to be ugly. They're going to pull other teams into the muck with them and it's just going to be like a shit show for 3 hours and Philly's going to win and nobody's going to be happy about it. The Bucks and Commies was a
Yeah.
good game. That was the game of the weekend. And then the Rams Schmeckeldorf, the Vikings on Monday night, which was fully expected. My only regrets from the
By
weekend.
us.
Yeah, I didn't realize that we were like the only ones that were all over that Rams game.
Yeah.
Like, I was listening to football podcasts today, and everybody's like shocked that the Vikings were so bad, and I was like, okay, because that was like the first thing we said when we led off the coverage of that game last week. Was like, this is a bad matchup for the Vikes. It's not gonna end well. But, yeah, my only 2 regrets from the weekend: picking the Chargers and not betting more money on the Rams.
Yeah.
I had a pretty large wager on them, and I wish I would have increased it. But we are on to divisional weekend. Some say this is the best weekend for NFL football of the year with the final 4 games. I don't know if I fully agree with that. I really like conference championship weekend.
Yeah, that would be where I would lean.
Yeah, but there are some fun matchups this weekend. There are some games I could kind of see either being total blowouts or maybe being good. So I'm gonna keep my fingers crossed for a good weekend of football. And it's going to start on Saturday at 4:30 when the Houston Texans visit the Kansas City Chiefs. Kansas City currently favored by 8.5. I feel like this game is a weird dichotomy for the Texans, who are going from a game where the Chargers are going to charge and you're just waiting for the Chargers to charge, to now going to a game where the Chiefs are going to chief. And it's like, it goes from, can you take advantage of the Chargers charging to, can you survive the Chiefs chiefing? Which I have defined as basically the Chiefs get an extra life in video game terms. where something stupid will happen throughout the course of this game in favor of the Chiefs, and it will alter the game. So you kind of have to beat the Chiefs, and then something stupid's going to happen, and then you got to beat them again if you want to
Yeah.
win, especially in Kansas City. And it's like, it's a call by the refs, it's a missed field goal, it's like a inopportune turnover at a weird time that normally like would never happen. But the Chiefs will chief in this game, and you got to decide, are the Houston Texans going to be able to survive that?
No. Are we good?
That's it. Wrap it up,
No,
folks.
I will say there is a path to the Texans winning this game, and it is precisely how they won last week. Like that defense has to be overwhelming and dominate the game.
Yeah. I did.
If that does not happen, the game is already over.
I was wondering while I was doing the notes, I was like, is there a world where this Houston Texans team is able to pull a New York Giants? Like pick your poison, the '07 or the
Yeah.
11 Giants, where the defense just gets so hot that it doesn't really, I mean, like, not that Eli played poorly in
Mhm.
those runs, but like the defense just gets so hot that it's pretty much unstoppable, and they
Yeah,
just dominate every game. And
it's not like Eli was pulling to Joe Flacco.
yeah, but to think, in order to do that, you'd have to do it to Herbert, Mahomes, and then either Josh Allen or the Ravens, and then probably the Lions in the Super Bowl. Like, that would be a hell. That's like a Dirk Nowitzki
Yeah.
2011 type of run right there, where if you're going to beat all those teams, um, I
If
think
it's
what,
not the Lions, it's probably the Eagles.
yeah, I think what was lost in the Houston whomping of the Chargers last week is that the Houston offense was still not that good in
Hmm.
that game. Uh, the fact that they got 4 interceptions really made a pretty big difference, and getting in good field position for that offense made a big difference in how many
Yeah.
points they scored. Nico Collins was good, but
Hmm.
Nico is kind of like the one thing that offense has going for it right now.
Yeah.
I think their defense can play really well in this game against the Chiefs and still lose. Like
Hmm.
you said, it can't be like the defense played really well. It has to be like the defense absolutely dominated and destroyed the Chiefs.
Yeah.
And I just don't see a world where Mahomes throws two, three, 4 interceptions to the Houston defense and puts the
Not in the
Houston offense.
playoffs.
Yeah, I don't think that he puts the Houston offense in a good enough position for them to get enough points to beat the Chiefs in this game.
Yeah.
Not in the playoffs, not in Kansas City, not with Patrick Mahomes. We could have just asked the question, do the Texans have Patrick Mahomes?
Yeah.
Because one team in this game does have Patrick Mahomes. And I will bet dollars to donuts that that is
We
the team
could
that wins.
really shorten this episode by just doing that in every game.
Just, well, we picked the Super Bowl winner in divisional weekend. How'd you guys do that? Well, I don't know. One of the teams had Patrick Mahomes. What are you talking about?
Who are they beating? We don't care. One of
And
those teams had Patrick Mahomes.
they're beating the teams that don't have Patrick Mahomes. That's This is the path to a three-peat.
There are two kinds of teams.
Yeah, so I don't know. I know like the Houston still has like the nobody believes in us thing going, and the defense is probably feeling pretty hot right now, but I think one thing you got to be careful about too is talking yourself into the team that looked a little bit too good last week, because it's like, oh, everybody wants to jump on like exactly what I said earlier and be like, oh man, this Houston defense, they're getting super hot at the right time. They're going to pull the Giants. Like, here we go. And it turns out that Justin Herbert is just James Harden and puts up like really good regular season stats and is a complete choker in the playoffs.
I, I will say one thing that really bothered me with Justin Herbert Not just in that game, but definitely in that game. But more
Was it,
in general over the last couple years is, dude, you're an insane athlete. Run the goddamn ball. Like
you know what bothers me about Justin Herbert?
continuing to blow games in the playoffs and not winning in general.
It's that he sucks. And for some reason, I picked his goddamn team last week. I'm not going to get over it. Uh, I picked the Chiefs.
Do they have Patrick Mahomes?
They do have Patrick Mahomes.
Then I pick the Chiefs.
Okay. All on the Chiefs. I think we're either going to agree on all four games this week, or there's one where I think we might be different. So I'll be interested to see. Game two, 8:30 Saturday night. The Washington should be fighting Georges and the Detroit Lions, the Motor City Kitties. I have this written down as Detroit -9.5. That's the line I saw earlier. I saw it as high as 10.5 some places. Matt, this is the biggest line of the weekend. Kitties versus fighting Georges.
Yeah.
I got to tell you before we go into this game, the highlight of my year, and we're only 15 days in, but the highlight of my football year, and maybe my football life, is that my father-in-law texted me the other day. And for those of you who don't know, my in-laws were not big sports people, and they've gotten super into the Lions being good the last couple of years, which I love. My father-in-law texted me and said he watched the entire Commanders versus Buccaneers game, and he's very confident the Lions will win. Like he's gone from not watching football to watching football that's not even the Lions, so that he can scout the teams and give me like a breakdown to be like the Lions are going to win. And I was like, hell yeah, hell, I love it, man. It is the
He's
best.
been indoctrinated.
It's the best, man. I got him. Finally got him thanks to the Motor City Kitties. Scale from 1 to 10. How nervous are you about trying to stop Jaden Daniels for 3 hours?
5. Going to have Jack Campbell and Alex Anzalone both be able to be out there. Um, Knock on wood. Assuming neither of them gets hurt. But uh this defense is just so much better when we have both of those guys. Like if you hadn't been watching the Lions the last few years, I don't think it would make sense for you to understand why it's such a big deal for Anzalone to come back from that injury. But outside of getting like Hutchinson back, I think that is the biggest return from injury that this team could have had.
I'll be upfront and just say I'm gonna pick the Lions to win this game, obviously. But I was watching the Buccaneers and fighting George's game the other day, and I was like, God, Jaden Daniels has like already become one of the most annoying quarterbacks to play
Yeah.
in the entire NFL. There was a play, I think it was 3rd and 1 on that final drive where Washington got the go-ahead field goal where
Mhm.
they doinked it in, which like you're having a magical season when. But it was 3rd and 1, and they do like a quarterback design run to the right.
Yeah.
Kalijah Clancy like jumped the snap count and was almost in Jaden Daniels' face before the ball even got to him because he's just that fast. Like we talked about Warren Sapp having the fastest 40 time of any defensive tackle in the NFL from like 1995, I think it was, all the way up until like 2019.
Hmm.
Kalijah Clancy was the one that beat that at the combine. And it showed, man, he was an absolute monster on Sunday. It just like he was in the backfield like all night, but just couldn't quite make the plays.
Yeah.
But this play, like he's in Jaden Daniels' face almost before the ball is to him, and Jaden Daniels like has already reached that point of like where Mahomes and Josh Allen and Lamar are, that he just makes the play by like just enough.
Yep.
he does like he stiff arms Clancy just enough to get away from him somehow and picks up the first down by like a yard,
Yeah.
even though there's like $4 coming in. And it's just like, I'm not saying that he's on those other guys' level yet,
Hmm.
but there's this quality, and especially with Mahomes, but like with all these guys, where just somehow the defender can't make the play.
Yep.
It is by like an inch, and they pick up the first down by a yard, or they get away just enough to make the big throw, or like it's this. They don't look like they're moving super duper fast.
Hmm.
Which, and not to say that Jaden Daniels and Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen can't move super duper fast, because they do that as well. But these specific plays that I'm talking about, it's like they're not moving super fast. They're not like, well, it's just this unidentifiable quality, this like
Yep.
intangible quality that they just get away by an inch
Yep.
and the play gets made. And like I was watching that Commanders Bucks game, and like you said, like yeah, I got to a point in that game where I felt more confident in Jaden Daniels than I did in Baker Mayfield in that game. And I was like, I just, whether it was with his feet or his arm, I was like, he's just gonna make the play. It led to him becoming the fourth rookie ever to win a road playoff game.
Hmm.
So you have '08 Flacco, '09 Mark Sanchez, and 2012 Russell Wilson. So he joins that group. Um, and that's great. And it's all well and good. But looking at this matchup specifically against Detroit in Detroit, this game is on Jaden Daniels for the Commanders. Like,
Yeah.
if they're going to win, he would have to have such a Herculean effort
Yeah.
at quarterback. I I just don't think that it's possible for him to do
It's
the things that would be required for them to win this game.
he might have to put up 50 to win.
He has to
Honestly.
have the remember the Michael Vick Monday Night Football game against
Yep.
Washington where
Yeah.
he 6 touchdowns, he threw 4 and ran 2. Like that's the game that he has to have to
Yeah.
win this game. Uh and that's only 42 points. I don't know that's enough, because the big problem for
Mhm.
Washington is that they are 30th in run defense.
Yep.
And God damn it, you do not want to come into Detroit and not be able to stop the run.
Hey, guess who's going to be playing?
Yeah, I saw Monty is.
David Montgomery.
Yeah. The,
Fresh legs, David Montgomery.
this is how you know that, like, this is the Lions season.
Yeah.
I'm not saying they're going to win the Super Bowl. They were my preseason pick. I bet on
Yeah.
them. I'm picking them here. I'm not saying that like they're going to win the Super Bowl. What I'm saying is like they are where the Ravens were last year, where it's like this is your year to win
Yeah.
it. If you don't win it this year, like this is your best opportunity. And you can tell that these guys really believe they can win it, because like we talked about this with Monty a couple times, where at first it was like he's going to have season ending knee surgery. And then he's like, no, I'm getting another opinion. I'm getting another. He got like, he just kept getting opinions until he found the one that would let him, like the doctor who was like, yeah, I can get you back to playing this year. And that doctor was probably in Germany in some like underground stem cell lab, but he found him. And now he's back, and he's risking his future potential NFL career because he's like, I am playing in this playoff run. Like if you're on a team that
Yeah.
doesn't have a chance of winning the Super Bowl, you are not coming back. So you could tell the guys are bought in. I've said this all season that like this is their year. Um,
Even with like Hutchinson, the way Campbell talks about it when they kind of ask like, is he going to be able to come back? And he always says like he had a season-ending injury, but if anyone can do it, it's him.
yeah,
And it's just like that door is closed, but Aiden won't let him close it. Like
some things cannot be cured by underground German stem cell labs, unfortunately.
this, we don't know if this is true yet though. So
Yes, think that Gibbs goes absolutely ham in this game.
Yeah.
I think Monty's going to play. I don't think you're going to see the same split that you normally see between Monty and Gibbs,
Yeah.
would be my guess coming off the injury he's coming off
Eh,
of.
yeah,
But
that and it's so hard to go away from the hot hand.
yeah,
Like you talk about how like borderline untouchable Jaden has looked. That's how Jameer has looked as a running back.
I could see this being a game where Jaden puts some points up to start
Hmm.
and people keep watching him at like a bigger and bigger national stage and go like, holy shit, this kid is good because he is really good.
Yeah.
But like you said, I think you have to score a lot
Yeah.
to come into Detroit and beat the Lions. And I just don't see it. Like one thing that really stood out to me last week in the Bucks game was you could really hear the Commanders fans.
Mhm.
Like it didn't sound like a home game, but it sounded like more of a neutral site game than you would think.
Yeah.
That's not happening here.
No.
Like that is 100% not happening. I don't care how many tickets the Commanders fans buy. And I know they have a big fan base all over the country from back when they used to be good, but yeah, no, not in this city, not on that field. It is
No.
not happening on Saturday.
Every everyone in the area that had any remote interest in sports that can afford those playoff tickets were waiting for the prices to be available because there is borderline no price that they wouldn't pay.
Shit's expensive. It's like $350 for standing room.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
yep. We're both picking the Lions. I take
yeah.
it.
I'm definitely picking the Lions.
Yep. All right. So we both have Chiefs and Lions. Game 3, Sunday at 3 p.m. And I just want to say that when you have two football games, the absolute optimal times for them are 3 p.m. and 6:30 p.m. on Sunday.
Yeah,
They do this conference championship weekend as well. And it's my favorite. I love the 6:30 night game because it gets done just in time for me to go to bed. Because I go to bed early and it's like it finishes at like 10 and I'm like laying in bed like, this is perfect. I don't have to stay up till midnight to see the end of this one.
yeah. I mean, we got MLK Day off, so
Oh, that must be nice. Uh
county jobs.
Sunday, 3 p.m. Rams at the Philadelphia Eagles. The last I saw was Eagles -6. Matt, I feel the same way about this game that I did about the Vikings and Rams game. Uh, and I don't know if you agree with me, but I just feel like this is not a good matchup for the Rams. So Philly's defense is number one in yards allowed this season, number
Mhm.
one against the pass, number 10 against the run. And the Rams are going to go from playing a team that blitzes 39% of the time to a team that blitzes 19% of the time, which is
Mhm.
like going from the team that blitzes the most to the team that blitzes the least.
Yeah,
So you're going from a matchup where you have Matt Stafford against a team that blitzes all the time and does not have a good secondary to a team that does not blitz all the time and allows the fewest pass yards in the NFL, like without blitzing hardly
yeah,
ever. So that's, I mean, not that it's a particularly good matchup for any quarterback to go up against a defense like that,
yeah. No.
but I, the Rams offense, I think this is very similar to the Houston game where it was kind of lost on like just looking back at the game and seeing it was like 27-9 or whatever the final score was against the Vikings the other day. It's kind of lost that like the Rams offense was not that good. They put up 20 points and 290 yards. Like Stafford only threw for 202 touchdowns against the Vikings. And for large portions of the season, the Rams offense has just not been good.
Yeah. Well, I would say that the stats from this game on this past weekend are kind of misleading because he had most of those stats like by halftime. And then they kind of came out slow in the second half and then they just went into like grind it out mode.
Yeah,
So,
that's fair, but the Vikings are such a great matchup for Matt Stafford. And now you're going to like a pretty much polar opposite defense. And I don't love Stafford against this defense. I My hesitation on like picking the Eagles to win big is
mhm.
kind of twofold. Is the Rams still have the better quarterback and the better coach
Yep.
in this matchup, and when you have those two things, it's never over because I don't trust Jalen Hurts.
No.
And then there's part of me that's like, are the fires in LA going to be that type of thing that like galvanizes a sports team and they go on like this run because it was on full display before the
Yeah.
Vikings game of like the national anthem and like all the hype and the people and Andrew Whitworth coming out and giving the speech about loving LA and all that stuff. And then
Hmm.
the Rams came out like a house on fire. Pardon that was probably a bad analogy, but the Rams I can't even say the Rams came out hot. I apologize. Uh the Rams came out and played very well instantly. And
You're on a heater today.
I was, yeah, oof, oof. I was thinking about like, the Red Sox in what was it, 2018 when they had the Boston Marathon bombing.
Hmm.
And then that Sox team goes on to be the best team in the history of the Boston Red Sox and they win the
Yeah.
World Series while losing like two games in the playoffs or three games, whatever it was. And I don't know the Rams team is as talented as that 2018 Boston Red Sox team was, but I could see this being that type of galvanizing event where they're like, we got to do this for the people back home kind of thing. And they come out and like have another great game plan with McVay. You have an experienced quarterback who's very good in the playoffs and Matt Stafford. And honestly, like the vibes with the Eagles are really weird right now. And I don't love that for them either. Like I know that they're trying to brush off AJ Brown sitting on the sideline reading a book during the game as like, oh, he's just doing what he's got to do to get in the right headspace. But like engaged and excited teams are not reading a book on the sideline.
Yeah.
It's a fucking weird thing to do.
It is funny because the sales on that book have exploded since then.
Yeah. It's like
But
it's like a self-help book or like a
yep.
mindset book, but
Yeah.
it I don't care what book it is. It's just
Yeah.
it's weird to be doing
No,
that.
as someone that generally doesn't care about the Eagles, I do think it's hilarious, but it's definitely not. I would be very confused and concerned if I saw Amon-Ra St. Brown doing that.
Yeah. Well, especially because AJ Brown only had one catch for 11 yards in that
Yeah.
Packers game. I I'm starting it right now. I'm starting it here on the podcast live. I am starting the AJ Brown to the Patriots rumors. I'm doing it. They asked Mike Vrabel about him the other day in his introductory press conference or like one of the interviews he did after. And he was like, I love AJ. He's become a great player. I would love to have him. And now AJ's like reading books and getting bored on the sideline of the like I'm starting the rumors right now, starting the hot stove that there will be, I guarantee there will be AJ Brown to the Patriot rumors this offseason. I guarantee it.
Uh, yeah. I think the other thing that gives me hesitation too is look, plain and simple, the Rams defense has gotten better in the back half of this season. Like notably better. And as you said, I do not trust Jalen Hurts as far as I can throw him, and I cannot throw grown ass men. So uh there's that. So now you're going up against Stafford and Sean McVay led offense, and you're kind of putting all of the emphasis for outscoring that offense on the ground game, which if you're gonna do it that way, Saquon Barkley is certainly the guy that you want to lean on, but it's still kind of a I don't know, that's a risky proposition for me.
I think the thing is though that I'm not worried that I have to outscore a Sean McVay and Matt Stafford led offense because they haven't been
No,
good this year.
but we've kind of seen that you may only have to put up what 20 points in order to outscore them. Like
Yeah,
the Packers were begging for the Eagles to put them away, and they wouldn't do it.
it's
And
con-
that's what concerns me the most is like you had an entire half to put them away and nail that coffin shot, and you just didn't do it. They that yeah, you let Jordan Love do it, which
yeah,
he's great at that.
and I get that. I just like you mentioned that the Rams fixed their defense, so like after they allowed 42 points to the Bills in week 14 or whatever it was, they allowed 6, 9, and 9.
Mhm.
And then the Seahawks game, they didn't play their starters, and then they allowed
Yeah,
9 this past week. But also in the game since they put up 44 points against the Bills, they beat San Francisco 12-6, the Jets 19-9, and the Cardinals
yeah,
13-9.
yeah. I will say one of the things that concerns me the most for the Rams is I gotta believe that Cooper Kupp is playing through something that he is just not able to really fight through because I otherwise don't understand why he's not even getting targets.
Yeah. Yeah, it's weird. It's and like Kyron has been good lately, but like not great. Like their run game hasn't been good.
Yeah, they've had to lean on him a lot this year, so he's probably a little gassed.
Yeah, it's just weird because if you look at the Rams and all of like where they rank statistically in every single category on offense and defense, I really don't understand how they're here. They're 15th in total yards on offense, 10th in passing, 24th rushing, 20th in points scored, 23rd on third down. Defense, they're 27th in yards allowed, 20th in the 20th against the pass, 22nd
Yeah.
against the run, 17th in points, and 20th in third down. Like they're not particularly good at anything except for the fact that they have Sean McVay and Matt Stafford. And that's
Yeah.
just been enough to get them here. I just don't know going across the country into Philly, which is a fucking hornet's nest, and just playing this Philadelphia team that like I don't think that Philadelphia is going to blow the doors off of them, but I think that Philadelphia's defense is good enough to make this game really ugly, and that their offense, while I don't trust Jalen Hurts at all, the fact that they can like run the ball with Barkley and Hurts, I think makes the other side of the ball also ugly enough
Mhm.
where they're just going to muck up both sides of the game. It's not going to be a pretty game. It's probably not going to be fun to watch. And I don't think anybody's going to be happy at the end of it. Like, even I'm picking Philly to win.
Yeah.
Uh, even if Philly wins, the fans are just going to be like, oh, God, it's team. It's just one of those teams like they're good, but they're a hard watch for 3 hours on both sides of the ball. It's just like, God, I don't like this.
Yeah. I'm taking the Eagles. I don't like that 6.5 spread.
I think the first three games we've talked about so far are like prime opportunities for some combination of teaser,
Yeah.
like 6 point, 6.5 point tease. You can
Hmm.
tease all three of them together, bring all three lines down 6.5 points at plus 160. So then you're talking Eagles in a pick 'em, Lions by 3, and Kansas City by 2.5. I feel a lot better about that than I do about betting
Yeah.
any one of these games right
Yeah.
now. The last game of the weekend, maybe the only one I will bet. I probably am going to have like that 6.5 point teaser with those first three games. And then I feel like I'm going to bet this one because at least it's reasonable. Sunday at 6:30, the final game of the weekend, the Baltimore Ravens visit the Buffalo Bills. It is currently Ravens by 1.5. It actually opened on Monday at Bills by 1.5, and it flipped within 48 hours. They flipped the entire line, and I don't necessarily think there was any news for it. I think the bets kind of started pouring in, but looking at it right now, it is actually only like 51% of the money on the Ravens, 49% on the Bills. So it seems like whatever team is plus money is just going to get hammered in this game.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see where you're at on this game because, like, I
We'll
think
see
this
where I
is
land by the time we're done talking about it.
this is game of the weekend. Like, this is the one you circle on the calendar.
Yeah.
This is the one I've been talking about this for weeks, that like this was the one I was most excited for as soon as I started thinking we were going to get it. Marquee matchup, not only between the top two quarterbacks in the MVP conversation, which, like, can we just throw away the votes and just say whoever wins this game is the MVP? I know it's a regular season award, but it's just like
Yeah.
if one of you shits the bed and loses, the other one gets MVP. It's done. Um, but I feel like weirdly in a way that both of these quarterbacks kind of need this game for their legacy.
Yeah,
So
I would say so.
Josh Allen is 6-5 in the playoffs now. If he loses this one, he's 6-6, and like five of his six losses are Mahomes, Burrow, and Lamar. Although he has beaten Lamar before. Lamar is 3-4. His playoff struggles are well documented.
Yeah.
And it just feels like no matter what happens in this game, that one of these guys is going to get unfairly shit on Monday. Like that, I see this being the overreaction game of the week where every podcast, every sports show, every whatever leads off with whoever lost this game and how they're a bad playoff quarterback and they can't get it done and blah blah blah.
I think too, like, there's this element of this is Lamar's year to kind of like right the wrong of last year. And it just so happens that he's going up against Josh Allen, who is, yes, the other guy in the MVP race. A lot of people kind of were already handing him the trophy already. And it's almost necessary for him to win this game to really warrant that kind of anointing. And so like beyond their like playoff records history, like there's a lot of narrative stake here based on just recent history.
Yeah, this is the narrative game of the weekend. For I think anytime you have two marquee
Yeah.
quarterbacks going up against each other in the playoffs, that
Yeah.
automatically leads to the narrative bowl.
Yep.
Speaking of narratives, I keep seeing this narrative that the Ravens have fixed their defense because like these teams were very similar for large portions of the season. They were being carried
Mhm.
by elite offenses and awesome quarterbacks, but the defenses weren't that good. And they're like, oh, well, the Ravens last 5 games of the season really fixed their defense. Looks a lot better now. But I just want to give a word of caution because their last 5 games were the Giants, the Steelers, the Texans, the Browns, and the Steelers again. And I feel like when that's your schedule, it's pretty goddamn easy to fix your defense. So
Well,
I
I what I will say is fix might not be the word. It improved definitely because the defense we were seeing at the beginning of the year, those teams somehow would have accidentally put up 30.
yeah, for everybody that I've seen picking the Ravens so far in this game, it's just like, well, the both have elite offenses and like the Bills defense is horrible and the Ravens defense is just better. They fixed it. It's gotten so much better, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I fully expect there to be fireworks in this game. Like I expect both these quarterbacks to play
Yeah.
well. I expect points. I expect like awesome plays from these
Yeah.
guys. I'm not saying it's going to be like 45-42 or anything like that cuz I do
No,
think that
that's too low.
yeah. No, I don't think it'll be that high cuz like I think there's a shitload of money on the over which almost
Yeah.
guarantees to me that this game is going under.
Hmm.
Um but I also think like I want to trust that the Ravens have figured this out, but I don't know that I fully can. So they only scored 28 points last week against
Hmm.
Pittsburgh, but they ran it 26 times with Henry, 15 times with Lamar. So once with Sims, once 6 times with Hill. So they ran the ball over 50 times last
Yeah.
week for 300 yards and only threw 21 passes. And if you could promise me right now on Wednesday night at 9:14 that their game plan is going to be something similar against the Bills, I would be like, I'm in. The Ravens are going to win because this is like the right plan is like dominate time of possession, choke the clock. Like this is the team the Ravens were supposed to be is like they can close. They're the best closing team in the NFL because you can't stop them from running.
Yeah.
And as soon as I saw they were doing designed runs against Pittsburgh, I was like, this is over. Like design run, or as soon as I saw they were doing design runs for Lamar Jackson against Pittsburgh,
Hmm.
I was like, this game's over. This is what you guys should have been doing all season.
Yeah. Those read options with Lamar and Henry, it was completely unstoppable.
Yeah. They need to be okay with Derrick Henry being the player of the game,
Yeah.
potentially. Because the alternative version that I can see is like I do think Josh Allen will have a good game in this game, much better than the last time these two teams got together in Buffalo. And if the Ravens are like, oh, we need Lamar to keep up with Josh Allen to like make a point about the MVP, is where this game potentially starts falling apart.
Yeah.
And not that Lamar can't be spectacular in this game. I think he can be, especially because
Hmm.
Buffalo's defense is shitty. But I want to see 25 carries for Henry again.
Yeah.
I want to see the design runs for Lamar. I want to see the read option stuff. Um, and I get that that's easier to bust out now because you don't have as many games left. And you're like, okay, we don't have to save these guys' bodies as much.
Hmm.
But just if you get caught up in like Lamar Jackson has to outperform Josh Allen in this game, that's how I think the Bills win. I don't know if
Yeah.
I can trust the Ravens team to not do that.
And like, it's not like I see the Bills being concerned about James Cook potentially being the player of the game. He could wreak havoc in this game too.
I feel like Josh Allen is like happy when like he'll go in the
Yeah.
interview and be like, let James cook. Like he's happy when James
Yeah.
wins the game and like is the best player in the game. But with the Ravens, I don't know if it's necessarily Lamar as much as it is like the front office and the coaching staff where they're like, no, we need
Yeah.
Lamar to lead the way. And they backseated it last week. And I don't know if it's because Zay Flowers was out or because they're like, hey, this is who we are and this is what we're going to be in the playoffs now. But if it's the latter, then I think that this Ravens team is just as dangerous as any other team that's left in the playoffs right now.
Yeah. I mean, if you just run the damn ball, who is stopping that?
Yeah. I know it's
Because you have to commit so much one way or the other to stop one of them. And the moment you shift to take one away, you're creating a chasm for the other one.
yeah.
And it's just you can't stop it.
I text you about this the very first drive of this NFL season when the Ravens were playing the Chiefs and they ran, I think it was like third and short and they ran read option. I was like,
Yeah.
this is the deadliest play in the NFL this season.
Yeah.
It's 100% is. And I still, 20 weeks later, whatever it is,
Yeah.
I still stand by that the Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry read option is the deadliest play in the NFL.
Yeah,
You
no,
have
I
to run it.
mean, Lamar Jackson is a literal video game player, and Derrick Henry, the man is 250 pounds and hits 21 miles per hour. That shouldn't exist.
Yeah. But you have a video game player on the other side too. And like Josh
Yeah.
Allen's fully capable. And James Cook. Like I don't want to leave James Cook out. He's not on the
Hmm.
level of Lamar, Derrick, and Josh
Yeah.
Allen. But like James Cook is a goddamn good player. And he
Yeah.
had 16 rushing touchdowns this year too. Same amount as Derrick Henry. So
Yeah.
um I can already tell you I know what's going to happen in these playoffs is that the Ravens are going to run all over the Bills. They're going to win. They're going to get me all hyped up to think that they actually run the ball, and I'm going to pick them against the Chiefs next week in the AFC Championship, and they're going to run the ball 6 goddamn times, and they're going to
Yeah.
lose, and I'm going to sit here during that entire bye week and just be like, I believed again. I fell for it again. Who are you picking, Ravens or Bills? I think this is the hardest pick this week.
It is the hardest pick. Even having talked through all of that, I'm still sitting like dead set in the middle. But I just think there's something to having been there on the cusp of it last year and getting kicked in the teeth. I'm gonna give it to the Ravens. Like I think that gives them that slight edge for me. But yeah,
I think
I don't know.
you could kind of make that argument with the Bills though too, because they were like
Yeah.
right there against the Chiefs and they blew it, and
Oh yeah.
they gotta be watching that
No, with
AFC
Josh
Championship
Allen,
game,
it's
being like,
it's every time he loses a playoff game, it's some superhuman beating him.
yeah, that's the problem. But I think the real problem here for the Bills is like it's not one superhuman that you got to worry about on the other side. It's two. It's
Yeah.
Lamar and Derrick Henry, and I really think like I'm going to give the Ravens the benefit of the doubt against my better judgment here and say they looked at last season and looked at that game against the Chiefs and was like, what the fuck were we doing?
Yeah.
Um, and they were like, we can't be the team we want to be with Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins. And the Chargers just
Yeah.
proved that last week is that like when that's your running back combo, you're not
Yeah.
going much of anywhere. So they brought in Derrick Henry, who's I think the best running back of his generation,
Yeah.
like better than CMC, better than Saquon Barkley.
Yeah.
Derrick Henry is such a goddamn monster.
Yeah. Well, in fairness to Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins, it's not their fault that on fourth down, Greg Roman is scheming up plays to be thrown to Quentin Johnston.
Yeah. But like from the Ravens perspective,
Yeah.
like I think it's a lot harder
Yeah.
to only run the ball 6 times when you have Derrick Henry than it is with,
Yeah.
because like I get like you want to play this heliocentric football and you want to put the ball in your best player's hands as often as
Mhm.
possible. But
Yeah.
I think it's honestly debatable who their best player is at
Yeah.
this point because like you have to split touches between those two guys. You
Mhm.
cannot not have Derrick Henry touch the ball. So
Yeah. Just because you have LeBron doesn't mean that Dwayne Wade never shoots the ball.
exactly. Um, but I haven't heard anything about Zay Flowers. I'm assuming he's playing in this game. I do think they need him because they're going to have to generate some explosive plays, but I'm taking the Ravens as well. I'm taking the Ravens as well. I don't feel like this is the round where the Ravens are going to fuck me. I feel like it's the next round. So just remind me of that next week when I want to pick the Ravens to beat the Chiefs.
We'll see if I can remember that myself.
Someone remind me out there. Send us an email, fouledoutsports@gmail.com, and be like, Adam, don't do it. Just one email that says don't do it. You don't even have to sign it. Just remind me. Um, before we sign off, we had a listener question I wanted to talk to you about real quick. So I was talking
Yeah.
to my good friend Giles, who listens to every episode of the podcast. Thank you, Mike. We love you.
Woo!
Um, and he was saying he thinks it's pretty cool that the first college football playoff national championship is the number, what is it, number six versus number eight or something like that. I forget what the seeds were,
Something like that. Yeah.
but two teams that were outside of the top four um, playing in that, like, the college football playoff has kind of achieved its intended result by including more good teams. And now, like, we're seeing that these are two teams that probably would have been left out.
Hmm.
There's a chance Notre Dame would have made the four team playoff, but there's also a pretty good chance that both these teams were left out. Ohio State 100% would not have been in the four
Yeah.
team playoff this year.
Hmm.
Um, Art, and he texted me and was like, I hope that you and Matt will talk about this on the podcast. So here we are. And I was thinking about it myself the other day, and I was like, do you think that the college football playoff achieved its intended result this season?
Guess from whose perspective?
I mean, from Greg Sankey's perspective, it absolutely did not, because he wanted four SEC teams in the
Yeah.
final four, and he's pissed.
Yeah. But I mean, so it was 7 and 8 that made it. So like, yeah, you can say from the perspective of opening it up to like allow competition to decide who the actual national champion is, and not just what four or two teams we picked, right? Um, and then also like it's Notre Dame and Ohio State. Like you don't get a whole lot more like blue blood programmy than that.
It's
So like in
going to
terms
have
of
good
the
ratings.
money, yeah, it's gonna hit on the money.
Yeah. I was thinking about it as like, so what is the intended goal of this playoff? And their goal, the goal that's been stated over and over again by college football, is that they want to have the best teams be in the playoff. Like when they had the four teams, it was supposed to be the four best teams. We want to have the two best teams play for the national championship. And I think by opening up the field, that the good thing that college football has done is not have a committee select who the best four teams in college football are.
Yep.
And like we said this during our college football playoff show, is that the more you open it up, the more chance you have of actually making sure that the best teams are included.
Hmm.
And that's what they did this season, is like they opened it up, they got to pick 12 teams. And so you're giving them more opportunities to put the best team in there.
Yeah.
And I think 12 was a good enough number to say, like, I don't think that like South Carolina or Alabama or someone who didn't make the playoff
No.
was going to be better than Ohio State.
No.
So I think it did achieve its intended goal that way, of like whichever one of these teams wins the national championship, we'll be able to say like, yeah, that team probably wouldn't have been included in the four team unless the committee made like a really bold call, and that we can feel very secure this season in knowing that the best team won the national championship.
Yeah.
The one thing I will say though is that especially Ohio State, I feel like they don't deserve to win the national championship this year. I feel like they don't deserve to be in a position to win the national championship this year. Um, but college football has never necessarily been a sport where it's like, okay, who deserves to win the most? That's always been the argument, is
Yeah.
like deserves versus who is actually the best team. And the problem, I think, with the four-team college football playoff is that the committee ended up ranking teams in order of who deserves to be there the most, and not who is actually, not just being like, this is the best team, we're picking them.
Yeah.
And that it led to results you didn't want. But we're, I'm probably picking Ohio State to win. I've been riding them the entire college football playoff, and I've been making a lot of money off of them.
Hmm.
And so, like, say Ohio State does win, they're going to have two losses and they didn't win their conference championship. They didn't even play for their conference championship. And
No.
yet here they are favored by double digits to win the national championship. So, did they include the best team that wouldn't have got included in the four team? Absolutely. And I think that that's the goal. And I think that we can say that they've achieved the goal.
Yeah.
Are we going to have a national champion who doesn't deserve to be national champion? Yeah, probably. Probably.
Well, I wouldn't rule out Notre Dame, if for no other reason than Marcus Freeman has to be the single most fuckable head coach I have ever seen.
Yeah, that's probably true.
Like, absolute Chad of a human being.
Yeah. And I know Ohio State fans are going to push back and be like, we absolutely deserve this. We beat Tennessee, Texas, and what would it be Tennessee, Texas, and Notre
You
Dame.
know who you didn't beat?
I played someone else too. Well, Oregon. They beat Oregon too. But yeah, you didn't beat Michigan.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be hysterical that even in a national championship year, they couldn't beat Michigan.
Yeah.
And
And they won't beat him the next year either.
that's more what I mean by deserved is like,
Yeah.
do you does a team that lost to Michigan, like had two losses, didn't even play for their conference championship, does
Yeah.
that team deserve to be in a position where they can go on a run and win a national championship? And you're going to have that with a 12 team playoff. And I've
Yeah.
made peace with that. But that's what I mean by deserve. Like they absolutely earned the right to be here by the way they've played these last couple of games. I'm not trying to take that away
Yeah.
from Ohio State. I think they're obviously the best team in the country right now. Um, they're playing the best football. So I'm glad that they were included. But and that's why I would say that this did achieve its intended goal.
Yeah. I
Um,
mean, I took no issue with them making the playoff, and they won the games that they needed to win in order
mhm.
to get to the national championship. And yeah, hey, if you win the national championship, good for you. You still can't wash that stink off you.
Still lost to Michigan. I think this is like the ultimate Michigan monkey paw curling
Yeah.
moment is that like Michigan fans are like, I wish we'd win a national championship. I don't care what happens after. And then Michigan's bad this year and your top two rivals are playing for the national championship. And it's like, damn it. Although in true Michigan fashion, I feel like all Michigan fans are rooting for Notre Dame.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I guarantee there's not a single Michigan fan who's like fuck both
Yeah.
these teams. They're all like go Notre Dame. Like there's no it's like the Yankees for me in baseball where it's like I hate the Astros, but when the Astros play the Yankees, I'm like go Astros. I love the Astros. Jose Altuve never cheated. He's awesome. Uh but I love the level of pettiness. They're like, you know who's kind of cool is Marcus Freeman. I want to fuck that guy. Like Matt just said, Matt's like, who's super hot? Notre Dame's coach.
It's undeniable. Like,
Yeah. So there's teams like talking about interviewing him for like the NFL coaching jobs already and stuff. And I'm just like, damn, this guy came a long way from people being like, are we sure that he should replace Brian Kelly? Because like the first season that he took over, people were like, oh God, I can't believe we lost Brian Kelly for this guy. And now it's like, who would you rather have be your head coach?
we a very long time ago would have said anyone but Brian Kelly.
I still say that.
Yeah.
I hate Brian Kelly. Look at LSU. LSU
Yeah.
had Jaden Daniels,
Yeah.
Malik Neighbors, and Brian Thomas Jr. last year and didn't like lost 3 games, 4 games. Don't tell
Yeah,
don't
something
you
like that.
don't you dare tell me Brian Kelly's a good coach.
No.
Anybody who coached at Central cannot become a good coach. Just can't happen. But yeah, so I agree that with Giles, that's pretty cool that this worked out well its first year. Um, I was thinking that changes are coming, but I was reading an article saying that in order to make a change within like the first however many years of the playoff, that it has to be a unanimous vote for like, so if they want to take away or if they want to rank it by seed and not give buys to like the top four rated conference champions like they did this year.
Hmm.
Like we talked about that, the fact that Arizona State and Boise State had buys, that it was going to change, but they can't take that away unless everybody votes for it. And that like the commissioners of the Big 12 and the remnants of the Pac 12 and ACC and like all those guys that are not going to vote to give their buys away.
Yeah.
So the format may not change for a while. So
Hmm.
we'll have to see if the rankings do next year. But that is it for us. As always, Fouled Out can be found on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Pocket Cast, Overcast, anywhere you get your podcast. You can hit us up on Gmail, fouledoutsports@gmail.com. Send us your picks. Let us know where you think we're crazy on ours, because we did agree on all four. 4-2 last week. Trying to do better this week. We try to go for a 4-0 week this week. I feel good about 3 of the games. We'll see how the other one goes.
Yeah.
But I'm not in the position where I'm like, this team's going to fuck me. I need to switch my pick. I think that's a wild card only event. But enjoy all the football this weekend. So you got Saturday, 2 games Sunday, and then the national championship for college football is Monday. Matt and I will be back next week to break down AFC and NFC championship weekend, our favorite weekend of the NFL calendar. But until then, my friend, I will see you soon.
Yep. Bye, guys.
Bye, guys. Bye, Mom.
Bye, Robin.